NBA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Here are the racers of the 2014 Piston Cup season. Now, why is this list moving so slow? Well, in the number 3 is Austin Drafton. By the way, that one should say R because he is a rookie this season. Why is Austin Drafton the number 3? That is because Richard Chilpaints has brought back the number 3, his old friend Dale Earnhardt's number, and gave it to his grandson, Austin Drafton. Kevin Karvik will be the number 4 this season, the same number as Jack DePost. Danica Speedtrick has a new look, but is still racing for Gasworth Haas Racing. Chip Gearings has joined Garrison Motorsports. Hopefully he will not have as many engine failures. Tony Gasworth is still on Gasworth Haas Racing, his own team. And here are the racers with some lower numbers. Kyle Brakes will be primarily racing in the second division. Ricky Speedhouse Jr. is still here. And here is the mean yellow car, Kyle Busch Tire! David Height's car and Chris Baldwin will both be retiring at the end of the season. David Height's car specifically has had a pretty long career in the Piston Cup. Hopefully he can make one final start. And here's the mean yellow red car, Joey Laguna! Why? And Joshua Roadwiper has been useless! And then there's Alex Bloman and Juan Carlos Martinez, 2 new rookies for this season. Brick Yardley being the other car with the number 24. These racers following Brick Yardley on this list haven't had any changes compared with last season in terms of what team they raced for or what their paint scheme is. But Sebastian Silva had a decent last season. Let's see how he does this season. Now into the next part of the list where Jamarcus Cakehart and Phil Tankson both have the same number. Tony Power Tire and Terry Carboni will both be retiring at the end of the season. And Ryan Newcar's a new look. Doug Throttleman will probably continue to jump, and not many changes happen here. David Rudikar is now in the number 35 and part-time racing. Landon Carsill is back in the Piston Cup and also going to primarily race in the second division. Kurt Busch Tire also has a new number, and Kyle Carson will be a rookie this season in the number 42. Not many other changes over here. AJ Carmeninger is now the number 47. Let's see how he does this season. TG Castlenutt is still the number 48. Bobby Carboni is also the number 52 now. Cal Williams is a new rookie this season. And also, Peter Cornfuel is still racing. And so's Will Draft Rev. Jeff Burnton will be retiring at the end of the season. And Bobby Rodtesta is the new number 67 with his younger brother Ethan as a backup. Bobby Rodtesta has some big tires to fill because of Matthew Wheel's retirement. Although all Bobby needs to do is qualify for a few races because Matthew wasn't very good at that, especially after the 1990s. And here is James Garrison, the Piston Cup's most popular team owner, and also friend of the Axlers, as Phil Tankson is the number 28 Nitro 8 car, and that is one of his racers. Let's see how James and his team does this season. And also Floyd Mulvihill. Don't forget about him. Nothing has really changed about him. Let's hope he doesn't wreck any cars this season, because his teammates were doing that last season. Kajmo Mikno is still in the number 71. Jack Armstrong is still at Blaster Charger Racing. And Martin Carrix Jr. has a new look in the number 78. And his younger brother Ryan Carrix is a rookie this season. Pitbull Speed Racer and Trevor Turnrev are still in the number 85 alongside Bill Gears. Brick Hicks is in the number 89 like he had been for the rest of his career. And also Maury Clutchburn and Ernie Gearson have made over 1,000 Piston Cup starts each. And neither of them are considering retirement. And Ernie Gearson is getting ready for his 41st consecutive Piston Cup season. And then there's Travis Draftville, and then after him, Lightning McQueen, who has a new look this season, is just off the back of winning his 6th Piston Cup. He has not even made 500 starts in the Piston Cup yet. And Michael McDrivewell will have the same number as him. Casey Energizer will also be a rookie this season. And Ryan Rodages is considering leaving Speedson Racing. I don't know why. And here's Carl Edwards in the number 99 and Billy Carjoy with a new look in the number 100. Still at Garrison Motorsports. And here's Brian Brooks, who is a mean green car. And here are all the racers with 3-digit numbers, like Edwin Burnout and Grayson Radiator. I wonder what they're going to do this season. And also Dominic Carcycle. Once again, the car with the highest number is Ace Arrowhead in the number 832. And Scott Rims is going to the 3rd division. Now into the starting grid, where Cal Weathers will start at pole position for the 2014 Florida 500, with Martin Carx Jr. with his new look to the outside. Row 2 has the Joe Gears Racing teammates Matt Karzeth and Denny Carlin. Row 3 has Casey Corner, and to his outside, the defending champion, Lightning McQueen. Row 4 has Bobby Swift, the 2011 Piston Cup champion, with Kurt Bushtire to his outside. Row 5 has Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Brick Yardley, both of whom have high expectations for this race. Row 6 has TG Castlenut, last season's underdog, and Doug Throttleman to his outside. Row 7 has Eric Carmarola and Jimmy Cables, who started at the pole for the last Florida 500. Row 8 has AJ Carmeninger and Kyle Carson, the rookie, to his outside. Row 9 has Garrison Racing teammates Jamarcus Capehart with his new number and Billy Carjoy to his outside. Row 10 has Ryan Newcar, who is now the number 31, and Clint Bocart to his outside. Row 11 has Jamie Macari and Sebastian Silva to his outside. I wonder what he's going to do this race. Row 12 has Tony Gasworth, who is recovering from his crash, and Greg People to his outside. Row 13 has Phil Tankson and Danica Speetrick to his outside. Row 14 has Reb Meeker and James Garrison, who will have a special look for this race. Row 15 has Alex Bloman in his very first Piston Cup start, and Carl Edwards to his outside. Row 16 has Rex Revler and his teammate Brad Karslowski. Row 17 has Moray Clutchburn, who has made over 1,000 Piston Cup starts, and Ricky Speedhouse Jr. to his outside, a Piston Cup racer who's made less than 50 Piston Cup starts. Row 18 has the 2 mean yellow cars, Joey Laguna and Kyle Bushtire. Row 19 has Brick Hicks and Kevin Carvick. What are they doing all the way back here? Row 20 has Michael Cartip, who has won this race twice before, and Todd Marcus to his outside. Row 21 has a pair of Garrison Racing teammates once again, Jack DePost and Chip Gearings. And starting in 43rd is Ernie Gearson. And all of these cars, including some others, all failed to qualify for this race. Now, let's get on to the race. Cal Weathers will lead the first 2 laps of the 2014 Florida 500 before losing the lead to Denny Carlin, who would keep the lead until lap 11, where Kurt Bushtire would take the lead for himself. He would lead until lap 25, where he'd lose the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead for the next 5 laps before Martin Carx Jr. would be out on lap 30 because of an engine failure. Denny Carlin will take the lead after the restart and lead for just 2 laps before his teammate Kyle Bushtire would take the lead from him. He would lead until lap 45, where Casey Corner would take the lead from him. He would lead until lap 47 before the mean yellow car would take back the lead, leading until lap 48, where Casey Corner would retake the lead. Just leading on lap 48, before later that lap, Cal Weathers would retake the lead and keep it for just 2 seconds before Kyle Bushtire would take the lead from him, leading the field until lap 49. But on lap 56, Denny Carlin would take the lead once again. But then Kyle Bushtire would take the lead once again on lap 56. But then Brad Karslowski would take the lead on lap 56 and lead for 2 laps before Kyle Bushtire would retake the lead, leading the field into lap 60 before Brad Karslowski would retake the lead. He would lead for 3 laps before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen on lap 63. Lightning McQueen would lead until lap 71, where Joey Laguna would push James Garrison and then take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps before his teammate Brad Keselowski would retake the lead, leading until lap 75, where Cal Weathers would retake the lead. He would lead for 3 laps before losing the lead to Eric Carmarola, who would lead until lap 82 before losing the lead to AJ Carmendinger, who would lead for 2 laps before he'd lose the lead to Danica Speedtrick, who would lead the field until lap 87, but then she'd lose the lead to Jimmy Cables, who would lead on just lap 87, as only a few seconds later, Michael Cartrip would take the lead for himself, leading for 3 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 115, where Brad Keselowski would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 120, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead. He would lead for 8 laps, but on lap 127, Clint Bokar would be out because of an engine failure. And then, after the restart, Jimmy Cables would take the lead. He would only lead for a small amount of time before Michael Cartrip would retake the lead. He would lead for 2 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead for himself, leading for 14 laps, but then Michael Cartrip and Danica Speedtrick would accidentally wreck each other on lap 144. Carl Edwards would take the lead after the restart, but he wouldn't lead for long because Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead later in lap 145. Keeping the lead for 5 laps in the meanwhile, Eric Carmarola would be out on lap 146 because of engine failure, and then Greg People would take the lead on lap 150, leading until lap 154, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead, leading for 1 more lap before Greg People would retake the lead. He'd lead for 3 more laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 173, where Greg People would retake the lead, leading for 2 more laps, but then his teammate Carl Edwards would take the lead from him on lap 175. 2 laps later, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would be back in the lead, leading for 2 more laps before Carl Edwards would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 182, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead. He would lead for 20 laps before Sebastian Silva would take the lead from him. He would lead for 9 laps, but on lap 211, Ernie Gearson would accidentally wreck Kyle Carson and himself. After the restart, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead. He would lead for 2 laps before Greg People would take the lead for himself, leading for 3 laps before Brad Keselowski would retake the lead, leading the field all the way until lap 223, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead. He would lead for 3 more laps before Sebastian Silva would take the lead from him. He would lead for 2 laps before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead until lap 231 before he'd lose the lead to Brick Yardley, who would lead for a short period of time, leading all the way until lap 232, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead. He would lead for 4 more laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead, leading for 2 more laps before Matt Kenseth would take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen would lead until lap 251, where Denny Carlin would fail to wreck Lightning McQueen. But then, Denny Carlin would take the lead for himself on lap 251, leading for 4 laps before his teammate Kyle Busch would pass him for the lead, leading until lap 259, where Greg People would take the lead for himself, leading all the way until lap 262, where Jimmy Cables would retake the lead. He would lead for just 1 turn before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 275, where Jimmy Cables would take the lead once again. He would lead for just 2 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead once again, leading for 3 more laps before Sebastian Silva would retake the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 280, where Cal Weathers would take the lead for himself, leading all the way until lap 287, where Sebastian Silva would retake the lead once again, leading for only 2 turns before Brad Keselowski would retake the lead, leading the field all the way until lap 293, where Sebastian Silva would retake the lead, leading the field until lap 308, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading the field for 7 laps until Kurt Busch would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 321, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 4 more laps before losing the lead to Cal Weathers on lap 325. He would lead for 2 laps before James Garrison would take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps, but then Joey Logano would push James Garrison on lap 329, and then James Garrison would push him back, as Joey Logierno is the mean yellow car. As the two are shoving each other, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading until lap 333, where Jimmy Cables would take the lead from him. He would lead for just one lap before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 340, where Brad Keselowski would push Lightning McQueen on lap 340 and then take the lead for himself, leading for 3 laps. And then Cal Weathers would take the lead for himself on lap 343, leading for 4 more laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 361, where Todd Marcus would take the lead off of pit cycles. And then later in the same pit cycle, Rex Revler would take the lead, leading the field into lap 362. And then Jamarcus Cakehart would take the lead from himself, leading until lap 364, where TG Castlenut would take the lead from himself. He would lose the lead a few yards later to Chip Gearings, who would take the lead for a few yards before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead for himself, leading the field all the way until lap 389, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading until lap 394, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead once again, leading for 5 more laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead. He would lead the field for 14 laps before Bobby Swift would take the lead. He would lead for 5 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead for himself on lap 418. But on lap 429, Doug Throttleman would jump over Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps before losing the lead to TG Castlenut, who would lead until lap 436. On lap 436, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 453, where Greg People would retake the lead, leading for 2 laps before James Garrison would take the lead for himself once again, leading for 2 laps before his teammate Sebastian Silva would take the lead from him, leading all the way until lap 468, where Brad Keselowski would take the lead for himself, leading for 4 more laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead for himself, leading for 28 laps and leading the field into the white flag. But on the final lap, Kyle Busch Tire would be 10th as of the final lap, where he wrecks Jimmy Cables, Tony Gasswort, Chip Gearings, TG Castlenut, Phil Tankson, Casey Corner, Jamarcus Cakehart, Jack DePost, Sebastian Silva, Todd Marcus, AJ Carmeninger, Doug Throttleman, Billy Carjoy, Alex Blowman, Ryan Newcar the Rocket, and Kurt Busch Tire, who then says this: "I know your younger brother wrecked you out, but Kurt Busch Tire, don't say that word!" And an anonymous Piston Cup fan, among many others, are annoyed that this happened on the final lap, and then James Garrison would wreck the mean yellow car and himself on lap 500, and then Rex Revler would accidentally wreck Carl Edwards and himself on lap 500, and then Trick Hicks, the mean green car, says this, and then a much nicer green car says this to the mean green car. Well, he's probably right, because why else would the mean yellow cars be so mean? But who won the race? Dale Earnhardt Jr. would win the 2014 Florida 500, winning his 2nd Florida 500 race. Denny Carlin would finish 2nd this race. Brad Keselowski would finish 3rd. Lightning McQueen 4th. Brick Yardley 5th. Matt Kenseth 6th. Cal Weathers 7th, Ricky Speedhouse Jr. 8th, Greg People 9th, and Reb Meeker rounding out the top 10. And Brick Hicks would be the last car to cross the start-finish line, finishing 16th this race. Now what about Kyle Busch Tire, the mean yellow car that caused the big one on the final lap? He would finish the race backwards, but still on the track. Now, here's the full race results of the 2014 Florida 500. I just told you about the top 10. Ricky Speedhouse Jr. did not lead a single lap this race. Joey Logierno missed out on the top 10. Bobby Swift to finish 12th, Kevin Karvik and Jamie McCarry finishing 13th and 14th, and Maury Clutchburn rounding out the top 15. And Brick Hicks was the last car to finish the race in 16th. And look at all of these cars who were unable to finish the race, mostly because of Kyle Busch tires. Big one. Why, you mean yellow car? So many racers who actually did well this race were unable to finish it because of you. When Dale Earnhardt Jr. took the white flag, there were 36 cars on the track. And here are the cars that wrecked out earlier because of engine failures or accidental crashes.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Yeah, quite a lot has happened ever since the start of the 2014 Piston Cup season. And can you believe that Ernie Gearson is taking part in his 41st consecutive Piston Cup season? At least half of his competitors weren't even born yet when he made his first Piston Cup start in 1973. Consider that River Scott and the King Strip Weathers were also on the track for his first ever race. In the 2014 Florida 500, Ernie Gearson competed against Alex Blowman and Kyle Carson, two cars who are not old enough to remember when Don Chapcar got through an entire crash without a single scratch in 1986. May Don Chapcar rest in peace. And also, make sure to stay tuned for the 2014 Piston Cup races 2 to 12 video. That will be coming out soon enough. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. The Ukrainian people just wanted to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin, who began this unjustified war over 2 years ago. His tyranny rules over around 1/5 of Ukraine's land, which includes Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. Every single day, it becomes harder to repel Vladimir Putin's tyranny because of Ukraine's shortage of manpower. Here at the KA Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel, we do not stand with Putin. We stand with Ukraine and hope that Ukraine can win the war. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava! Nechai Shvitsya Daroretsia, Ukraini Permoha! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon!